number of people, thereby helping the society. Now, not getting into the details of this, I'll request you to watch this video, through which you will be very clear as to what the concept of entrepreneur is, why the entrepreneurship has become so important and dominant in our day-to-day life. Further, what are the reasons for the government? What are the reasons for the government to give so much impetus for entrepreneurship development and startups, and also why the various schemes that have been taken up by the government have given impetus to the entrepreneurship. Now, I'll request you to watch this video. Uh, Friends, you must have seen for yourself the importance of entrepreneurs in our society, both for the individuals as well as for their wealth accumulation, as well as for their families and the nation at large. Now, with these ideas and the importance of entrepreneurs to our country, the government has leased on to a number of schemes so that the entrepreneurs and especially the startups who for some reasons don't have that much of technology, information, as also the money to start a new venture. And therefore, the government has come up with number of schemes for the benefit of these startups so that whatever ideas they have or whatever plans they have to execute those plans into reality, the government has come out with these schemes. These schemes mandate on the government agencies as well as the financial institutions to help these startups in their birth time, the progression time, as also in their future development and progress. Now, with this background, we will see our start with our slides, and the first thing we'll have about the brief introduction that we had with you. And in this, let's understand what the definition of a startup company is. A startup is a company that is in its initial business stage and is financed by its founders until the business gets off the ground. That means initially any startup like you all budding entrepreneurs hold on some idea, and for that you plan your finances, because nothing works without finance. In our economy or anywhere else for that matter, finance happens to be the lifeline. So for its initiation we need some finance, and therefore for a startup company finance is required by the founders. And once it gets off the ground, that means when it starts off, then it also attracts funds from outside. That means beyond the founders, they include the family and friends, crowdfunding, venture capitalists, and credit through financial institution. Family and friends, you all know, wherein you can borrow or you take money, funds, your requirement through your family members and from your friends too. Then crowdfunding is when you pool in resources from individuals for your startup. That means from different people through deposits or any other manner, you take money from different people, various number of people, and therefore it is called crowdfunding. Then comes venture capitalists. Venture capitalists are those people who have who initiate the any business proposal. That means by way of technology, by way of management, by way of funds, looking into the uh, actual application and also growth of that particular venture. That means any startup which the venture capitalists feel has a growth in the market, it has a lot of potentials in the times to come, they will very readily fund and also provide technology support for such startups. Then comes credit through financial institutions. This is very important for each one of us, because in today's society, in today's market, today's business, nothing works without credit. Credit means loan, and this loan you can have from banks as well as that is the financial banking institutions, as well as non-banking institutions. So therefore, like non-banking institutions are like LIC, wherein you can take the loan. You can have you have very private institution like Muthoot and a lot of other institutions which are non-banking institutions. So this is how the investment is attracted for the startups. Now, the characteristics for startups are, firstly, is be disruptive. Be disruptive means for any startup to progress, you should not just copy the idea of others. You must see that this is the trend today, but tomorrow what is going to happen? Tomorrow what is going to happen may be totally different than what is happening today. For example, if you go back to 20 years back, that time there were no computers. It was all manual basis working was done in all spheres, whether in banks, institutions, or any other departments. So that point of time, nobody felt that how can you have computers in place of men? You cannot. So that time, even the unions in the organizations, they were against these computers. But the government intervened and they disrupted that idea that only men can do the things. They said, no, the technology has its own importance. And the technology was brought in our work culture. And today, it's for you open for each one of to see that nothing is working. Even this class is being conducted through technology. So that is the disruptive. So one has to be disruptive in the ideas, and those disruptive ideas means you plan out, chalk out new ideas for execution. Then you have start with a small market. Friends, it's very important that as a startup, you just don't think of in terms of the state market or your national market or global market. You start from a small market, maybe your own society, maybe your own locality, or maybe your own town. Once you creep into this market, you make your inroads, then you extend your market further. Then you have focus. That means at each point of time, a startup must focus on its products, its client, its market, its finance. Whatever may be the field, it must remain focused. At no point of time, the startups should think that he's starting with one product, let's start second, let's start third and fourth. In this case, they'll all be jumbled up. All ideas will be jumbled up, and as far as execution will be is concerned, the startup firm may not succeed in the manner it needs to be succeeded. And therefore, as a startup, its founders and the startup entrepreneurs must always be focused on their own product, their own clients, their own market, and highly remain focused on the funds also. Then provide an amazing user experience. Like when she said, you have to start from a small market. Whatever maybe the client is, yeah, it may be 10, maybe 20, it may be 30. But all those 30 people must feel that this is amazing concept. It's a great idea. It's a great product, great service. And so that these people, the users, instead of you advertising your product, they will advertise for you. And in marketing parlance, it's called word of mouth. And the word of mouth publicity is 100 times more important, more essential, and also more result oriented than the normal advertisement, publicity, etc. Now, let's see what the traditional startup process is. Whenever you as a future startup entrepreneur decides, you need to identify the idea or the opportunity. I'll put this example that till March this year, we had no idea of masks and PPEs. Now, once this idea came into play, then this challenge of COVID-19, this challenge gave opportunity for the entrepreneurs like you. And in that, they had thought, and they really felt that today in the new market, masks and PPEs are very good product to be sold. And therefore, these startups, they started from zero, which was zero in March in India, to over 150,000 pieces in by the beginning of May 2020. That means in March, which was zero, it went on to 150,000 pieces uh, in May 2020, and therefore now it has taken a big stride. PP industry has become rupees 7,000 crore industry in 2 months, and it is the second largest in the world after China. Now, this is what happens is, once you identify the idea and the opportunity, once you have identified the right idea and opportunity, you make a business plan. Now, this business plan implies what is your market, what is your product, where you're going to sell this product, what will be the market cost, how much, what will be the costing, and what will be the price you are going to fix for that, which are the people will be benefited, what will be the market strategies and all that. So you got to write to this business plan. And then comes the important factor, that is the raising of funds. As an entrepreneur, how you plan to raise funds for this. The raising of funds is implied what I had just discussed before. That is it or your own money, or you're going to borrow it from your families or friends, or crowd pulling, venture capitalists, or for that matter, in fact, venture capitalists may not play a role in the initial stage, or fund from financial institutions. Then you come on to the next phase, that is called receiving funds and execute. That means once your fundraising has been done, it has been accepted by the financial institution or the agencies who are ready to give you the funds, then you have to make a team. You have to make a team which will be in liaison with these financial institutions or the authorities, so that your product is accordingly developed. Your product takes shape, and then it is developed further. Thereafter, you have the next step is introduce the product to the market and start selling. Once your product is ready, it is ready for sale, you have to take it to the market. This is again the next step, wherein you have to see your chain. That means the chain, how the product is to be sold in different markets. Whether it's a local market, possibly you may do yourself. It's a slightly bigger market in the town, you may keep 2-3 vendors. And if as this grows, then you will have to take the wholesalers and other ways. And having done this, then you'll have to assess whether it's a success or it's a failure. If it's a success, very well done. You got to move further and enhance your production for the requirement in the market. And in case the product fails, you have to look back to the reasons and come back to point one, that is identify the idea, what idea you had and why it is not working, and then again restart with the process. This is called the traditional startup process, which is applicable to all types of industries. Then we come into the Government of India schemes for entrepreneurship development. Now friends, there are number of schemes, but we will be discussing here only the important schemes which are important for startups. That means the people with your background and people who aspire to be startup firms, open the startup firms, will be dealing with only those schemes. The first scheme is called Aspire. Aspire means a scheme for promotion of innovation, rural industries, and entrepreneurship. Aspire was launched to set up a network of technology centers and to set up incubation centers to accelerate entrepreneurship and also to promote startups for innovation in agro industry. This is important, where basically the agriculture based cottage industries, there this scheme is more applicable. Then Aspire scheme consists of three major components. The first component is the livelihood business incubators. It's also called LBIs. The second is technology-based incubators, that is TBIs. And the third is a fund to be managed by SIDBI. Now, SIDBI is Small Industries Development Bank of India. This bank primarily remains focused for development of rural areas and also the other cottage industries which are applicable in this. Now, the Aspire scheme objectives are to create new jobs and reduce unemployment, promote entrepreneurship culture in India, grassroots economic development at district level, facilitate innovative business solutions for unmet social needs, and finally promote innovation to further strengthen the competitiveness of MSME sector. Union Budget 2019 had proposed 80 livelihood business incubators and 20 technology business incubators to be set up in 2019 and 20 under this scheme. The aim was to develop and train 75,000 skilled entrepreneurs in agro-rural industries. The Aspire Fund under SIDBI, that is Small Industries Development Bank of India, with a corpus fund of 60 crores, is to be augmented with an amount of 250 crores from other sources, making the total corpus of 310 crores. Now, initially the government had given SIDBI a fund of 60 crores and another 250 from various agencies was to be augmented for this, and therefore this fund was raised to 310 crores. The next scheme is called Sfurti, that is scheme of fund for regeneration of traditional industries. Sfurti under Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises was launched in the year 2005 with the objective to organize the traditional industries and artisans into clusters to make them competitive, to provide support for their long-term sustainability and sustain unemployment, and to enhance marketability of products of such clusters. Friends, if you are aware, in our rural sector, the artisans they are poor people. They don't have any knowledge about the market, about their product, about their price, or what is the rationale for improving further. They don't have any ideas, and therefore MSME sector, the Ministry of MSME, they launched this program so that instead of individual, they work in cluster. Once you have a group, so the group makes the strength and they all work as a team, and in that cluster MSME through Sfurti tries to help these people. This revamped Sfurti scheme started on 1st of 2014. That means in 2005 it was raised and it was revamped, reshaped. इसका नवीनीकरण किया गया with an outlay of 149.44 crores for developing 71 clusters, including coir industry, covering about 44,500 artisans. Now you can imagine Sfurti, which started in 2005, it had made 71 clusters of so many artisans. The guidelines were further revised on 30th June 2015 to streamline the approval process, fund flow, and remove the bottlenecks. Bottlenecks means the disruptions. जहां जहां पर जो तकलीफें आ रही हैं, जहां जहां जो भी रुकावटें आ रही हैं, उन रुकावटों को दूर किया गया. The financial assistance provided for any specific project shall be subject to a maximum of 8 crores. For northeastern region, J&K and hill states, there will be 50% reduction in the number of artisans per cluster. That means for any specific project, financial assistance will not go beyond 8 crores. And for northeastern region and J&K and hill stations, there will be 50% reduction in the number of artisans per cluster. What will be this look like? It will be something like this. For type of clusters, in case of heritage clusters, which includes 1,000 to 2,500 artisans. Per cluster budget is 8 crores. In major clusters, which includes 500 to 1,000 artisans, per cluster budget limit is 3 crores. And in mini clusters, it is, which is only up to 500 artisans, the cluster budget limit is 1.50 crores. That is the reason in the initial line, the government has emphasized that for financial assistance provided for any specific project, this limit will be maximum to 8 crores. Now, Sphoorti under revised guidelines includes the following. So this is Sphoorti, which has various schemes, and the revised guidelines which has been made for different schemes are these. The first one is for enhancing productivity and competitiveness of khadi industry and artisans. This is a scheme for the next group of startups will be include for rural industries services centers. The third one is for other small interventions like ready warp units, ready to wear missions. Ready to warp units means जो ये धागे बनते हैं हौजेरी के या कॉटेज इंडस्ट्रीज में, उसके लिए हुए, and ready to wear missions, so that these could be provided to industries who are dealing with these warps. They are buying these warps for production of cloth and other garment. Then the fourth type is for product development, design intervention, and packaging. It's also called ProDip. Then the target sector and potential beneficiaries include. Target sector means the sector which are objective or which we keep in mind, and the potential beneficiaries, they include are artisans, workers, because basically it is agriculture based, this scheme, so therefore it is working on that. Artisans, workers, machinery makers, raw material makers, entrepreneurs, institutional and private businesses, development service providers. Then artisan guilds, cooperatives, consortiums, network of enterprises, self-help groups, SHGs or enterprise associations, etc. And the third target sector is implementing agencies, field functionaries of government institutions, organizations, and policy makers directly engaged in traditional industries. These agencies, they work as per guidelines of the government to help the rural sector, to help these startup firms in the rural sector, so that the rural sector grows in tune with guidelines of the government. Future target of Sphoorti is setting up of 800 clusters of khadi village industries and coir with an outlay of rupees 850 crores to cover around 4 lakh artisans. Now this will give you the total objectivity and the focus of the government, how much the government wants to give importance to the startups, so that the rural base and our rural artisans and the agriculturalists are helped through this Sphoorti scheme. Assistance from multilateral development bank like ADB, the ADB's Asian Development Bank is being explored to carry out the mandate. So besides the mandate, besides the assistance from the government, in case the mandate is more, requirement is more, then the government is also working out that from Asian Development Bank and such banks, the assistance could be explored. Then the next scheme is called TREAD. TREAD is Trade Related Entrepreneurs Assistance and Development. Now this is for those startups who are basing their business on trade. TREAD under Ministry of SME envisages economic empowerment of women by providing credit through NGOs, training development, and counseling extension activities related to trades, products, services, etc. Scheme benefits and highlights of trade. Government grants up to 30% of the total project cost. Whatever will be the total project cost, government will give grant up to 30%. And this project is appraised by the leading institutions which would finance the remaining 70% as loan to the applicant women who have no easy access to credit from banks. Now imagine these women folks in our rural background, they don't have much of finance knowledge. They don't have knowledge about the credit, debit, commerce. They don't have. But what they are told through this scheme is you get a project made through the bank or financial institutions. Of that, 30% grant will money will be granted by government and 70% by the those banks or financial institutions to the applicant woman. And therefore, these women folks will be held in this sector. Then next benefit is training and counseling sessions will be provided by NGOs whose cost up to rupees 1 lakh will be borne by the government, provided such institutions also bring their share to the extent of minimum 25%. It is 10% in case of northeastern region of the government grant. जितना भी गवर्नमेंट ने ग्रांट दिया है उसमें 25% जो ऐसे इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं वो भी अपना शेयर देंगे. Institutions such as entrepreneurship development institutes, that is EDIs, NIMSME, NISBIRD, I, MSME, DES, EDIs is sponsored by state government and any other suitable institution of repute will provide need-based government grant which shall be limited to rupees 5 lakh per project. These are the schemes under TED and the under Ministry of MSME. These are the benefits which are provided. The next scheme comes is New Gen Iedc, that is New Generation Innovation and Entrepreneurship Development Centers. New Gen Iedc is a startup program launched by National Science and Technology Entrepreneurship Development Board under the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. This is a 5-year program that would be implemented in educational institutions like yours, then meant to support a maximum of 20 projects. That means this program, they will be allowed to have maximum of 20 projects. Objective of New Gen Iedc are to channelize the knowledge and energy of the youth in economic development process, to catalyze and promote development of knowledge-based and innovation-driven enterprises, to promote employment opportunities among youth, especially the students, to inculcate a culture of innovation-driven entrepreneurship, to act as an institutional mechanism for providing various services, including information on all aspects of enterprise. Now, friends, here when it's the New Gen IEDs, here the focus is on the students who are who have knowledge base and their knowledge is further accelerated by the institutions where they are being imparted these innovation driven subjects, and as such these students are focused by the government so that through this scheme of New Gen IEDs, employment opportunities are amply provided to the students, which is the need of the hour. The next is in the field of biotechnology industry research assistance council. It is also called BIRAG. Now, basically, this industry or this scheme is for the development of affordable, globally competitive, technology-driven products in the field of biotechnology, and it is to meet those areas which have not been met so far. It aims to apply unique methodologies for nurturing and promoting innovation-led research by providing financial, infrastructural, institutional, and mentoring support, and bridge the existing gaps between industry and academia. It has initiated partnerships with several national and global partners for building capacities of Indian biotech industry, particularly startups and SMEs. What is SME? SME stands for small and medium enterprises and has facilitated several rapid development in medical technology. You must have observed that after the uh, COVID-19, small segments, small, even cottage industry, they started making the masks, because the market was so heavy, the desire, requirement was so heavy that these people started taking benefit of the technology and the knowledge that they shared through the media. And these are called the whatever the challenges COVID-19 had thrown. Through challenges also some opportunities come in. So therefore, these people have addressed those opportunities from the challenge of COVID. It has so far supported over 783 startups. This BIRAC has so far supported 783 startups, 1,063 beneficiaries with 144 products and technologies, and generated employment for 3,500 persons through incubates. These incubate institutions and the centers, through these, so many startup programs have been initiated, and accordingly the beneficiaries have taken advantage of this. Now friends, besides all these important government of India schemes which are linked to credit and finance, there are some more schemes which are related to the loaning procedure and the finance. Now these schemes are the Startup India, the Stand Up India, and the Mudra. Now friends, you must have heard, I'm sure you must have heard of all this. These are very important schemes, and important schemes for each one of you. These, since they are directly related to financial institutions, that you're meeting your loan requirement, and also to help those startup firms which want to venture in different sectors, I felt it that I must relate these three schemes with the uh, financial facilitation lecture of mine in which is the next one. So these Startup India, Stand Up India, and Mudra, these three schemes we will be dealing in detail in the next class, wherein the startup, we'll be explaining all these detail, and also Startup, Stand Up, and Mudra, how are these schemes going to help in our setting up and also enhancement and setting up of the our startups. Because basically, besides the knowledge and the technological background, any startup entrepreneur needs funds, and how these funds are to be met, how we have to approach the banks, what and how the bank wants to assess our financial requirement, what methods we should take to understand the bank's requirement for helping us, and also how the bank's loaning procedure takes place step by step. These things we will be covering in our next session. And therefore, here, this session on the important government schemes, we close. And I thank you for the patient listening. Should you have any doubts on this, we can certainly answer that. or alternately you can club your requirement and doubts or any queries that you have once you listen to the next segment or the next session, because that is the session which wherein uh, you will be directly related and you will have a clear understanding of how to meet the finances for your startups. For this for this session, thank you all, and we will now be meeting in our next session.
Sir, one question, sir. So within this, right? One question, sir.
Please.
Sir, in the scheme like New Gen IEDC, which is for the educational institution,
That's right.
or for some other institutes, so what is the evaluation criteria? Because the number of projects which they are supporting is very limited across the whole country.
Mm-hmm.
So do they have some evaluation criteria that which projects they will sponsor?
No, no. The question is not of which they will sponsor. It is the question of institutions they approach them, that these are the for these area. This is the project we want to launch, and accordingly, we will be having our students base, and accordingly we will be starting that. And having based on that, there's an application from the government side which is standard, and they have to fill in that. Once the criteria mentioned in that are fulfilled, the applications are made through.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Uh, We are having a break of 10 minutes. We will start at 12 sharp again. Oh, sorry. You can start, sir. I'm there. Yes. Aditi, you can start calling with Pooja. You can call for the first group, Pooja and Surbhi Khurana. Okay, sir. So, Pooja,
Gambir and Surfi Khurana are first participants, so you can start your presentation now.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for arranging this event. So, may I present my screen first?
Yes.
Yeah. Ma'am, I think so. This feature has been received. Now I can.
Yes, Pooja, yes.
Yeah, I hope the screen is visible to everyone.
नहीं तुम्हारे पास उसमें numbers कहाँ हैं?
Thank you so much and a very good morning to all of you.
तुम्हारी
So,
ID क्या है?
we are going to present
Pooja.
our idea on voice assisted smart
मैं
stick
एक
for the
Excel sheet
visually
share कर
impaired
रहा हूँ.
people.
उसमें से ना वहाँ से देख
So,
लेना जो तुम्हारे
this is
नीचे
the
क्षितिजा है,
basic
मैंने
idea
उसको
of
कम्युनिकेट कर
myself,
दिया
Surfi,
है.
and from
उसके
Pooja
बाद मैं आगे
Gambhir
बढ़ रहा
from the
हूँ.
PhD scholars. So now, the main idea that motivates us to present this thing, idea or to present
तुम ना
this
यहाँ से
object
शुरू
is
कर
like
दो
that.
सीरियल नंबर 9 से. 9 अगेन तुम्हारा ये पूजा फिर मनी और इन सबको बता दो. मैं मनी, ठीक है, जो मनी राजवी प्रिया नायर मैं ऊपर वाले को बता दूँ.
Is our eyes only. So if our eyes are not communicating with us and is not telling us what is going to happen in front of us, we are like, oh, what's the thing that is going on? It's like a blank. So we are moving in a blank literally and we do not know what exactly the things are in front of us. So this thing we can say that is the eye of the visually impaired people. So which is going to tell us what is there in front of me and how to tackle with that. So this is my problem statement. Now, what is the aim and the objective of my project? So we are using the sticks, or the people are using the sticks from the last 100 years. So what is the difference with the basic stick and the idea that we are
Hello, Kshitija.
thinking is that now the
Kshitija, please see the group. Your presentation is rescheduled in next 5 minutes. Actually, we are running 2 simultaneous sessions now. So you may check the group for updated meeting information and join appropriate room. I can see you in another room with Aroda sir. You need to join the other room which I just shared on the group. Please join that. You can check the GYII group I have shared for second batch. You are in second batch now. Please join there. Your presentation is next. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
अब तो कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा, पता नहीं क्या चल रहा है.
Right now we are just having a break of 5 minutes. We will start at 12 for information to all. Yeah. Yes, sir. So can we start with the second session?
Yeah, Rahul.
Yes, sir.
Ah,
So should we start with the
yes,
second
yes.
session?
Certainly, we can do that. We can do that.
Sure. Sure, sir. So participants, we are going to start with the second session by sir only on the topic various bank facilitation and loan structures in India, which is, I think, first is most you can have a most experienced person for this topic with almost 30 plus years of experience in banking sector. So please take advantage of this session. I must, I will say.
Uh, okay, Mr. Rahul, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Uh, Friends, before we start the next session,
Yes, sir, you are loud enough and audible, and there is no problem.
okay, friends, good afternoon. We get into the next session, and this session is one thing which is directly of interest, of knowledge, and also which will be useful to you in your day-to-day operations besides your business endeavors. Now, the topic for today happens to be the facilities and loan structure in India for startup. Once we talk of the bank facilities, now let's look into what all we are going to cover under this discussion. We'll have the introduction, which include the entrepreneurship mindset, the needs of finance for startups. Query a lender. Lender means the financial institution may raise before giving you loan. That means from the other side, what he must be thinking and what you need to accordingly respond to his queries. The second part will consist of the latest initiatives by the government of India, Make in India, Startup India, and Stand Up India schemes. Then Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana. Then this year itself, from 1st July, MSME have been revised. The classification has been redone and revised. We'll be discussing that revised classification also. And finally, we will discuss the process of loan sanction at branch level. How does a bank sanction loan from the day you make your first appearance till the time you are given the amount you wanted in the shape of a loan? How does this entire process run? This will be covering. Now, before we understand all these concepts, let's understand a few small but important terms used in the banking. First is your account. You must be knowing there are two accounts, saving bank, you all must be having in some bank or the other, and the second is the current account. So the difference between these two are, while the saving bank account is an inducement for the individuals to save their money in the bank, the current account is primarily for business purposes, wherein the business people park their funds and utilize them as and when they feel like. So as the definition says, the current account, the business people, business persons, they can have as many transactions as they want. They can have as many clearances of checks as they want in the current account. But in saving bank, number of transactions are restricted. And since the number of transactions as well as checks are restricted, the government, as an incentive to park the funds of individuals, the surplus funds of the individual, bank gives some interest for as an incentive to save. This interest at this juncture happens to be 2.7%. This is all regulated by Reserve Bank of India. However, this saving bank interest ranges from bank to bank. In some private banks, you must have seen they'll give you 6%, they'll give you 7%. But under that, if you note, there'll be asterisk mark. That asterisk mark means something is hidden beneath that. In case you open an account with 500 and place 500 rupees and you expect them to get 700, they will not give you. So that asterisk, if you have noticed, or if you have not noticed, now onwards you can notice, implies that that rate of interest, 6 or 7%, will be given only if you keep the balance of minimum amount, maybe 1 lakh, maybe 1.5 lakhs, 2 lakhs, whatever is their requirement, whatever they have stipulated. Unless you keep that, they will not give you that interest. Then they'll give you the rate of interest, which is be much less. It may be 2.7. So the minimum rate fixed by Reserve Bank of India for saving bank now is 2.7%. And therefore, and in current account, there is no interest, because you are not parking your funds. You are whatever funds are there in the account, it is only for the business plan or as per the business requirement. Then the second term which is used, and you must have heard, is the two financing terms. One is called debt financing and second is called the equity financing. Now, debt financing means borrowing a fixed sum from a lender which is then paid back with interest. यानी आपने बैंक ने मान लो आपसे आज 1 करोड़ रुपया लिया और कुछ समय के बाद वो आप उनसे वो पैसा वापस लेते हो, तो वो आप बैंक क्या बन जाता है? बैंक डेटर बन जाता है. बैंक के पास आपका पैसा है, वो पैसा उसको दे है, आपको दे है, इसलिए बैंक becomes the debtor and you are the creditor. Therefore, this is called debt financing. That means when the funds are raised from public for the purpose of investment or any other thing, then these funds have to be repaid to the individual. And since the financial institution becomes a debt, so this is called debt financing. The second type of financing is called the equity financing. Equity financing means sale of a percentage of business to an investor in exchange for capital. आपने सुना होगा जो कैपिटल मार्केट, शेयर मार्केट होती है, उसमें आपने रिलायंस के 100 शेयर ले लिए. वो 100 शेयर का मतलब ये हुआ कि जितना कैपिटल है उस कैपिटल को आप उसके जितने, मान लो 1 लाख शेयर है, मान लो 1 लाख का कैपिटल और 1 लाख शेयर है, तो हर शेयर की वैल्यू कितनी होगी? 1 रुपया हो गया. तो इसलिए जब भी आपको वो पैसा आपसे लेते हैं, लेकिन उसके इन ल्यू they give you the share. So that is called equity. So equity is the capital of the company, and by that amount, the number of shares that you are holding for that company, you become the owner of that company by the quantum of shares you possess. So therefore, in equity financing, it is the sale of a percentage of business to an investor in exchange for a capital. Whereas in debt financing involves borrowing a fixed sum from a lender, which is then paid back with interest. जो पैसा डेट फाइनेंसिंग का होता है, ये कंपनी अगर डूबती भी है तो ये पैसा वापस देना पड़ेगा बोरोअर्स को. लेकिन अगर आपके पास अपना इक्विटी फाइनेंसिंग कर रखी है और अगर कंपनी बैठ गई तो वो पैसा आपको जरूरी है नहीं है मिलेगा, हो सकता है कंपनी डूबने के साथ वो भी डूब जाए. सो दैट इज द रिस्क इन इक्विटी फाइनेंसिंग and the debt financing. That is the major difference between debt financing and equity financing, because these two terms you must have heard, or in case not, then you will be hearing and knowing when you get into the business. The second part is called the concept is called credit appraisal. Now, why credit appraisal is done, or what is credit appraisal? जो credit माने लोन, ये लोन जब देते हैं उसका जब अप्रेजल करते हैं, what does it imply? क्या मतलब होता है इसका? इस credit appraisal में there are primarily 3 things which the banks looks into. First is the technical feasibility, यानी आप जो प्लांट लगा रहे हो या आप जो बिजनेस करना चाह रहे हो, Is it technical feasible?
Excuse me, sir. The PPT is not moving. It's in the introduction slide.
Yeah, that's I've just been moving that. Don't worry.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So there are three terms: the technical feasibility, the economic viability, and the managerial viability. So technical feasibility, whether it is feasible, the project is feasible. Secondly, whether your project will be economically viable. That means आगे चल करके इसमें पैसा आपको गेन हो पाएगा नहीं हो पाएगा. और तीसरा रिक्वायरमेंट जो होती है जो क्रेडिट अप्रेजल बैंक करता है वो will that be implying whether the persons who are running the business or the startup, do they possess the managerial ability to run the firm. So these are the three important things for the credit appraisals. And now let's just these terms are important because I thought in case you are not aware, you should be aware before we start with the further proceedings. Now we talk of entrepreneurial mindset. Now what is the entrepreneurial mindset? And in that, what is an entrepreneur? Entrepreneur is an individual who is able to perceive an opportunity for a business and create an organization to develop and manage that business successfully. जो भी एंटरप्रेन्योर अपना सोचा है वो क्या सोचता है and how is going to carve out that perception into reality for success of that business. And accordingly, the entrepreneurial mindset is about the way in which you approach challenges and mistakes. It is about an inherent need to improve your skill set and to try again. Then these are important traits which as a successful entrepreneur we must possess. These are the patience. One must have patience, not that we are going to the bank today and tomorrow loan will be sanctioned. We are going to the market, our product will be sold. We must have patience. Things are done gradually. It takes time for anything to build. The second is unhesitant. In case of any problem, the entrepreneur should not hesitate in asking, to raise the queries, to check back the details, to know the details. There should not be any hesitation. One should be hesitant free, and unhesitantly they must endeavor to know the facts, the figures, the applications, the rules, the skills, the finances, everything. Third is never get emotional. किसी ने कुछ कह दिया भाई तुमसे कुछ नहीं हो सकता. Don't get emotional कि भाई मेरे से कुछ नहीं हो सकता. Let the people say. You should have the power driven within you to succeed, and that will take you through. So never go by emotions, by what somebody has said, what somebody might have thought, what somebody will think. Don't go by that. Then next trait is inquisitive. Inquisitive, like you all people are. All of you need to know what is next. You have to know what is this field. You have to know how the field progresses. You need to know where will I land after 1 year, or how to proceed further. So all these are the queries which is mind-boggling for individuals, and therefore the individual must be inquisitive. And final trait is the discipline. Friends, for each success in our life, and for that matter even our day-to-day dealings, we need to be disciplined. For example, the time given for session today was 11. Some of you had come even 5 minutes before that, and most of you had come at time. So therefore you had maintained a discipline. Had you not done it, somebody would have either not connected, somebody would have missed something. So therefore one has to be disciplined, and discipline does not mean only the way of walking. Discipline means your acts, your thoughts, your attire, your presentation, everything is part of discipline. Your behavior, both with customers and others, so that is part of discipline. And then comes the entrepreneurial mindset is what you need to propel yourself forward. अंदर से जो आपकी आग है, that burning desire for you to succeed, that must propel you to move forward. So that is the entrepreneurial mindset. And this entrepreneurial mindset must have patience, unhesitant, never get emotional, inquisitive, and disciplined as a forethought and a drive for you to move. Then this is a little bit of this we had covered even in the last session. Need for finance for startups. Finance is one of the key ingredients for successful startup. आपने ये जो कोर्स कर रहे हैं इसके लिए भी पहले फाइनेंस की जरूरत पड़ी होगी, कुछ फीस देनी पड़ी होगी. आप स्कूल में जब आपने केजी में एडमिशन लिया वहां भी फाइनेंस की जरूरत पड़ी. फर्स्ट इज यू हैव टू बाय एन एप्लीकेशन फॉर्म, सो फर्स्ट फाइनेंस इज रिक्वायर्ड. You go to market, buy some vegetables, again finance is required. So finance happens to be the lifeline of our system, and therefore finance is one of the key ingredients for successful enterprise startups. Regardless of where you are in the startup line, you need money to keep the lights on, the team happy, and the momentum going. For all these things finance is required. Some knowledge on finance enable entrepreneurs and would-be entrepreneurs is to understand the language of finance so that they can talk to professionals with confidence. आप जब डॉक्टर के बारे में पास जाते हैं और डॉक्टर को आप अगर प्रिसाइज बताते हैं in the medical term, he is able to grasp your problem easily. But in case you just give wayward hints, then the doctor will take some time to understand you, and you will not be that much of with confidence. And therefore, to walk to any professional with confidence, you must have the basic knowledge of these financial terms. And some of the terms I tried to explain you before starting this, and rest as we build up, we will cover. Now, financing method, as we said, our first is the personal savings. That is the personal financing. मेरे पास कितना है? मेरे पास 2 लाख है. फाइनेंस में मेरे को स्टार्टअप में 1 लाख चाहिए, तो I don't need funds. मेरे अपने फंड से हो जाएगा. So that's your personal saving. If your personal savings are not that much, or if you feel that with you don't have much money, you need to take borrowings, then that will be the loan. So if you have to take loan यानी credit या कहीं से भी आपको लोन लेना पड़ेगा, तो that is the second method of financing. The third method is called the venture capital. Now, venture capital refers to the financing of a startup company by typically high wealth investors who think the business has potentials to grow substantially. In long run, this entails high risk and high interest. That means जो वेंचर कैपिटलिस्ट होते हैं उनको बहुत रिस्क लेते हैं, क्योंकि वो उनको कुछ नहीं मालूम, उनको सिर्फ आपका कंसेप्ट मालूम है, आपने क्या करना है ये मालूम है, कैसे करोगे, कब करोगे, मार्केट क्या होगी, क्या नहीं होगी, ये वो दे प्ले विद द रिस्क. So since it entails heavy risk, they also charge high rate of interest. So rate of interest charge in venture capital ranges from 19-20%. That is the range of venture capital, but people still abate of it for those people who don't have finances. So then the venture capitalists, if they understand, like for example, when the microchip was not developed, the people, when they came in with this idea, the venture capitalists played their role because they could understand that this particular item is going to sell in the market globally, and therefore venture capitalists came in forward to help such startups. Then comes angel investors. Angel investors are individuals to have a net worth of at least $10 lakh. ये angel investors होते हैं जिनका net worth जो है वो minimum $10 lakh होगा, and an annual income of at least $2 lakh individually. Net worth is 10 lakhs, annual income of at least $2 lakh, and 3 lakh in case with a spouse. अगर उनकी वाइफ या हस्बैंड काम करते हैं, उनके साथ उनकी एनुअल इनकम जो होगी $3 लाख की होगी, then they are termed as angel investors. Now, net worth is, the term net worth means that it is the value of assets a person or company owns minus the liability they owe. यानी जितना भी उनके पास टोटल वैल्यू ऑफ असेट्स है, what they owe minus what they what they own minus what they owe, उनको कितना दे है जो उनकी लायबिलिटीज हैं वो माइनस करते हैं, it becomes the net worth. Then we have the corporate investment. Corporate investment means that investment which is made by companies rather than individual or government. जो इन्वेस्टमेंट कंपनीज करती हैं, जैसे रिलायंस है, टाटाज हैं, बिरलाज हैं, ये जो इन्वेस्टमेंट करते हैं कहीं प्रोजेक्ट में, दैट बिकम्स द कॉर्पोरेट इन्वेस्टमेंट. अगर हम और आप करते हैं, इट बिकम्स इंडिविजुअल इन्वेस्टमेंट. देन वी हैव क्राउड फंडिंग. Like we discussed the previous session, crowdfunding implies it's a way to raise money from a large number of people. Here, the large group of people pull together small individual investments to provide the capital needed to get the project off ground. यानी कोई प्रोजेक्ट उसको शुरू करने के पहले बहुत लोगों से इकट्ठा करते हैं पैसा, और वो जो पैसा आता है उस पैसे को रिसोर्स बना करके उसको कैपिटल के रूप में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं. Such type of financing is called crowdfunding. And finally comes the grants. Grants are a sum of money given by a government or other organizations for a particular purpose. आपने यूजीसी सुना होगा, यूनिवर्सिटी ग्रांट्स कमीशन. So in this, the UGC grants are given to universities, institutions for academic purposes. So similarly, for various activities, particularly to the startups and these business houses for social cause, the government grants are given, and the grants are non-repayable. That means एक बार जो grant मिल गई इसको वापस नहीं देना पड़ता. Like we have loans. So grants are non-repayable funds or product disbursed. यानी जो आपका ग्रांट मिलती है उस लोन उसका ना तो प्रोडक्ट वापस देना पड़ता है ना वो पैसा वापस दिया जाता है. To receive a grant, a proposal must be submitted to a potential funder, and the recipient must have and meet certain qualifications. अगर आपको किसी भी इंस्टीट्यूशन से या गवर्नमेंट से ग्रांट लेनी है तो देयर आर सम ले डाउन क्वालिफिकेशंस एंड रिक्वायरमेंट्स. ओनली वंस यू मीट दोज रिक्वायरमेंट्स you fill in the application, submit it to the headquarters, and on its successful assessment, the grants are given by the governments. So these are the seven different methods of financing which can be utilized by the startups. Now, important thing for each one of us to know is what are the queries a banker can raise before giving a loan. आप अगर कोई भी आपके घर में आता है, आपसे कहता है मेरे को 200 रुपए दे दो, तो आप उससे सीधे पूछोगे क्यों, और अगर देंगे भी तो वापस कब दोगे, और वापस दोगे तो किस टर्म्स में दोगे, कब तक दोगे. So these are the various types of queries you may raise an individual to an individual. Similarly, when an institution gives you loan, they will also have their own queries, and those queries are how much money do you need. आप सेटअप अपना बना रहे हैं, बिजनेस स्टार्टअप कर रहे हैं, आपको पैसे की कितनी जरूरत है. Once you have said this, then they ask, what does your credit profile look like? आपकी जो प्रोफाइल है, क्रेडिट प्रोफाइल है, यानी आपकी बैकग्राउंड क्या है, और आपका जो आप क्रेडिट ले हैं वो आप देने के लायक भी है नहीं है. एग्जाम्पल, एक बैंक ब्रांच में एक बेगर चला जाता है, भिखारी चला जाता है और कहता है मैनेजर साहब आप सबको लोन दे रहे हैं, 500 रुपए मेरे को भी दे दो. So manager will not give him that money because that profile of that person does not depict any resources whereby he can give the money to the bank, give back the money to the bank. So therefore, the manager will assess the credit profile of the individual. Third query bank will make is, how are you going to use this money? अगर किसी ने बैंक से लोन लिया कोई काम बिजनेस करने के लिए और वो कहता है कि साहब मेरी लड़की की शादी है, मैं थोड़ा पैसा उसमें लगा दूंगा, बैंक will not give this money. because end use is something different. End use in the mind of the person is something different. So therefore, therefore, uh, therefore, the bank will assess as to what the how we are going to use the money. Then they will also ask, how will you repay the loan? They will certainly, even if they have understood, then they'll ask, how are you going to repay the money? In what field? How? In what periodicity? What will be the sale of your production? How much the amount you will receive? Where are going to sell and all that? Then, does your business have ability to make payment required to the loan? So this is another very pertinent question कि आपको जितना आप लोन ले रहे हैं तो क्या आपकी बिजनेस आपको उतना पैसा आपकी बिजनेस से उतना पैसा अर्न कर पाएंगे ताकि आप लोन दे पाएं वापस बैंक को दे पाएं. देन इज कैन यू पुट अप एनी कोलैटरल. कोलैटरल का मतलब एडिशनल सिक्योरिटी. जैसे कोलैटरल को आप ऐसे समझिए कि आपने मकान बनाने के लिए बैंक से लोन लिया. जब आप लोन लेते हैं तो जो आपकी जमीन है जिसमें लोन रहा है वो तो बैंक रख लेता है, लेकिन अगर आप लोन ज्यादा लेते हैं और उस लैंड से, तो बैंक कहेगा आपके पास कुछ और कोलेटरल है, यानी कुछ एडिशनल सिक्योरिटी आप दे सकते हैं, तो वो पूछा जाएगा, वो आप देंगे तो बात करेंगे. सो दैट्स कॉल्ड अनदर एडिशनल सिक्योरिटी इज कॉल्ड कोलेटरल. नाउ we move on to the next part. It's called the initiatives by government of India for financing the startups. अब इन startups को करने के लिए, क्योंकि इतनी अहमियत इनकी है to the individuals, to the youth, to the society, as also to the nation, the government has initiated these schemes, and these schemes are thus. First is, you must have heard of it. It is called Make in India. This scheme was launched by the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, and it was launched on 25th September 2014 to encourage both multinational as well as domestic companies to manufacture their products within the countries. ये बेसिकली इसलिए किया गया था कि हमारी लोकल मार्केट में लोगों को इंड्यूस किया जाए कि वो माल इंडिया में बनाएं, और बाहर की कंपनियों से भी कहा आप हमारे यहाँ आइए, हमारे यहाँ इन्वेस्टमेंट कीजिए और आप यहाँ पर हम अपना प्रोडक्ट्स बेचिए, बिकॉज यू विल गेट अ वेरी गुड वास्ट मार्केट which is ready for your products. That was encouragement, and also the government had given other income tax and functional benefits to them, besides the land, the power, the law and order assurance, and all those things which will enable any business person to switch over to India. You must have come or you must have heard in the news also, few months back, number of countries have packed up their companies and their industries from China and moved into India. So that is the through the assurance of the government and under the Make in India project. Skill development has gained enormous traction with Make of India. जब Make in India का है, जब Make in India आ रहा है, तो उसी लिए skill जो skill development के हैं वो उससे उसकी बहुत ही प्रगति हुई है. It has gained enormous traction. Great focus has been given to skill development. This aims to transform India into a global manufacturing hub whose share in GDP would raise to 25% by 2022. Once you have so much of manufacturing done in India through the domestic houses as well as the global houses, things, the GDP of the country will certainly rise, and it's going to rise by 25% by 2022. Make in India scheme has identified 25 sectors. Moderate to low sectors, low skill sectors are the construction, textile and food processing. अब आप देखते होंगे कितना कंस्ट्रक्शन का काम चल रहा है, कितनी जगह कितनी डेवलपमेंट हो रही है. दिस ऑल कम्स अंडर द लो स्किल सेक्टर. And then the skill intensive sector includes the aviation, defense equipment, manufacturing, and electronics. Then the next scheme you must have heard of is about the Startup India. Now, this scheme was launched on 16th of January 2016. This scheme aims to promote entrepreneurship among SC, ST, and women with loans in the range of Indian national rupee 10 lakhs to 1 crore. That means for those depressed people, those deprived people of the society, and for the women to uh, uh, develop entrepreneurship within them and promote entrepreneurship, the Startup India scheme was launched. The target are at least 2 such products per bank branch of scheduled commercial bank on an average, one for each category of entrepreneurs. यानी SC ST के लिए और वुमेन के लिए हर बैंक की ब्रांच को 2 प्रोजेक्ट सैंक्शन करने हैं as per stipulation of the government. Refinance is through SIDB. Now this SIDB happens to be, SIDB is the Small Industrial Development Bank of India, which was established on 2nd April 1990. The principal focus of it is a principal institution for promotion, financing, and development of industry in small scale sector. That means जो small sector के हैं, गांव की हैं, rural development के लिए है, इसके लिए SIDB is the bank. That means Small Industrial Development Bank of India, which began its operation from 2nd of April 1990. This is about the SIDB. It is created by Reserve Bank of India. Then comes department. This startup has been initiated and is organized by Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, called DIPP, of the Government of India. Then benefit to entrepreneurs, freedom from baffling inspections, capital gain tax, tax and profits for all 3 years. Now, when we are talking about this, whosoever is doing this startup business or is working under the Startup India business will get freedom for 3 years. That means for 3 years आप लोगों के यहाँ सरकारी राज के जो इंस्पेक्टर्स आते हैं वो आके तंग नहीं करेंगे. आपको 3 साल के लिए कैपिटल गेन टैक्स नहीं पड़ेगा. आपको जो प्रॉफिट आएंगे 3 साल तक के आपको कोई टैक्स प्रॉफिट पर नहीं देना पड़ेगा. So these are the benefits to the entrepreneurs the government has given under the Startup India scheme. The intention is so that the people who have initiated this venture under the Startup India scheme are able to stand on their own feet within 3 years. 3 साल में जब वो शुरुआत से एक प्रोग्रेस की सीमा में आ जाते हैं, तब तक उनसे गवर्नमेंट कोई टैक्स से लेती है, कोई इंस्पेक्शन नहीं होता है, उनकी कोई कैपिटल गेन नहीं है, कोई इनकम टैक्स नहीं है, कोई उनको प्रॉफिट से भी टैक्स नहीं देना पड़ेगा. दैट इज एन एग्जेम्पशन given under the Startup India. So this is very important for the entrepreneurs from SC/ST and women category. Regarding the startup, RBI has said it will take steps to help improve the ease of doing business in the country and contribute to ecosystem that is conducive for growth of startup business. This shows the quantum of interest even the Reserve Bank of India is taking so that the ecosystem in the country is maintained and also the environment is created whereby startup business takes its growth. Besides RBI, Ministry of HRD and Department of Science and Technology have agreed to partner in an initiative to set up over 75 such startup support hubs in NIT, IIT, IISCR, that is Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research, and NIPER, National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, that is in the pharma sector. Next scheme, again you must have heard, it's a very important scheme. It is called Stand Up India. Now, Stand Up India is launched. It was launched in April 2016 and headed by SIDB. So this scheme is under again the SIDB based. That is the thought of SIDB, and the objective of Stand Up India scheme is to facilitate bank loans between INR 10 lakh, that means 10 lakh rupees and 1 crore to at least one SC and one ST borrower and at least one woman borrower per bank branch for setting up a new enterprise. Like in the previous case, we had seen same standing here because both are headed by SIDBI. The enterprise may be in manufacturing, services or trading sector. आपका स्टैंड अप इंडिया स्कीम में आप कुछ भी काम कर रहे हो, whether it's in the manufacturing sector, production services, or in the service sector, or in the trading sector. Trading sector का मतलब आप एक जगह से माल ले हो, दूसरी जगह माल बेच रहे हो, आप कुछ कर नहीं रहे हो, सिर्फ ट्रेडिंग कर रहे हो. So you can benefit and take benefit of the Stand Up India scheme. In case of non-individual enterprises, at least 51% of the shareholding and controlling stake should be held by either an SC/ST or women enterprise. Now, to give focus to these deprived sections of our society, that means people belonging to SC/ST category and also the women enterprises, to throw impetus to their working, the government has said for individuals the benefit is already there. Now in case of non-individuals, अगर ये अकेले में काम नहीं भी कर रहे हैं, ये किसी और के साथ काम कर रहे हैं, तो भी 51% of the shareholding and controlling of the startup will be held by SC/ST or women enterprise. That means 51% से या उससे ऊपर का होल्डिंग इन्हीं की होनी चाहिए. कम से कम 51% की होल्डिंग SC/ST या वुमेन एंटरप्रेन्योर की होनी चाहिए अंडर दिस स्कीम. बाकी का 49% दूसरे लोग इनके साथ बिजनेस कर सकते हैं, बट अंडर नो सर्कमस्टांसेस these SC/ST category and women entrepreneurs will have a standing of less than 51% under India Stand Up India scheme. Now, accordingly, there will be interest rates and the eligibility. The interest rate that are charged under the Stand Up India scheme is the repo rate plus 4%. Now, what is repo rate? Is the repurchase option rate fixed by the Reserve Bank of India. They are the exchange rates जो आपकी quarterly Reserve Bank की meetings होती हैं, उसमें ये rates fix किए जाते हैं. So every quarter these the Reserve Bank of India committee meets and they fix up the rate. The present repo rate is 4%. So 4% plus 4%, that means 8% will be the interest rate. Repayment tenure will be maximum 7 years with moratorium period of 18 months. मैक्सिमम रीपेमेंट होगा 7 साल का और उसमें मोरेटोरियम पीरियड 18 महीने का.